Michael from Long Island, what did you think about the dumb comments Ronda Rousey made about Alexa Bliss? So Ronda was on the Lapsed Fan podcast recently. I didn't get a chance to talk about this last week. I didn't hear the entire thing, but I heard enough of it and then I read the rest. She also did an interview with Yahoo Sports and said that she has no reason to go back to WWE. She accomplished everything she wanted to do. Based on her last run there, we're all better off without her being there. She also said that she wasn't invited to take part in this year's Evolution show. Not that she turned it down. She just was never invited. And again, that Evolution show is one of the best shows WWE has done all year. Where would Ronda have even fit on that card? She could have showed up and just waved to the crowd. It would have been a waste of time for her. But on the Lapsed Fan, when one of the hosts suggested that Ronda should have squashed Alexa Bliss when she won her first world title in 2018, Ronda said, "The fact that they had me fighting Alexa Bliss at all was fucking ridiculous. And you want to know why they had me against Alexa Bliss? Because she had the most merch sales at the time." Like, what the fuck? That's your decision-making process? I'm not sure Ronda Rousey understands how pro wrestling works, even all these years later. Promoters go with those who make them the most money. Not only was Bliss one of their top merch sellers, she was the Raw Women's Champion. So it's not as if Ronda had a lot of say in the matter. If they wanted to put the title on her, Bliss was the champion. Therefore, she had to beat Alexa Bliss to win the belt. Now, if they wanted her to be, the Brock Lesnar of the women's division, she was no Brock Lesnar. But I mean, they could have pushed her like that if they wanted to, sure. Alexa Bliss was only going to get so much offense in on Ronda Rousey, but the way she is so dismissive of Alexa, like, who the hell is this girl? She was pushed for a reason, because she was and still is very popular. This is something Ronda Rousey doesn't understand. If anyone had a reason to complain, it was Alexa Bliss, who got concussed, not once, but twice, working with Ronda Rousey, because no one bothered to clue Ronda in that wrestling was a fucking work, apparently. Not only did she concuss her twice, she concussed her twice on the same move. It was a headlock takeover, drove her head first into the mat. That's why Alexa didn't wrestle on that first Evolution show. She was stuck standing at ringside. Because Ronda, who clearly has suffered one too many concussions of her own, pulled a Bill Goldberg and injured her. Ronda has a very high opinion of herself. She accomplished a lot in a relatively short period of time in her career, but she comes across very badly when she makes comments like the ones that she made in that interview. Dominic from Connecticut, I wanted to get your honest thoughts on Seth Rollins. While I know you respect his in-ring ability and longevity, I have noticed that you are irritated, bored, or apathetic with a lot of his segments and work. Especially recently, you have made comments such as, "The less Seth on TV, the better," and that you like him in small doses. Do you think he is undeserving of the top spot that he is currently in? Is there a version of Seth that you prefer over the others? Actually, there is. I still maintain that Shield Seth Rollins was the best Seth Rollins, especially in ring. Like when they went babyface, and Rollins would get like the babyface hot tag. Man, there was nobody better at it in wrestling at that time. Like he was fucking great. And that's not to say that he's not great in the ring now. He's just, he's 10 years older. He's had injuries and, you're not going to be the same that you were when you were 10 years younger. So me being sort of apathetic towards Seth, I've never liked this character that he's done where he comes out and calls himself the visionary, the revolutionary, and he, hums to his song and everything. Like that character has always irritated me. I mean, for him, it's the perfect heel character, I guess. But yeah, I've never liked this character. I don't know what he's supposed to be. He was coming out in the funny outfits and everything, and I wasn't sure that he even knew exactly what he was trying to be. So I just don't like the character. And I do think that when you have an overload of a lot of people on TV, that could be a bad thing. Unless you are just that special of a performer and just that entertaining, then you can make it work. Prime Rock in the late 90s, early 2000s, if you put him in half a dozen segments on the show, I guarantee you all half a dozen segments would probably be pretty great and pretty entertaining. Seth Rollins is not that guy. He's not the guy that I want to see plastered all over the show. I do think he's better in small doses, especially when he's on the mic. so many times, like when he's in there with Punk, where he gets that one guy that he's really angry with, like he could turn out some really great output on the microphone. But a lot of the times it's not that. It's just him doing his shtick, and I don't find it entertaining. I don't think he's undeserving of the spot. I think that he probably is the male MVP in WWE so far in 2025. So, when you hear me make comments like that, I don't want you to mistake it for hatred of Seth. It's just that, when you get too much of him, I think too much of him makes for bad TV. And I think in smaller doses, he is better. I think there's a lot of truth in that. Junaid from England, with Jon Moxley being one of the top guys within AEW and someone who Tony Khan has relied on to steady the ship during uncertain times, it got me thinking, what if Jon Moxley had stayed in WWE? How would his career have looked if he would have stayed? How would he have played into the bloodline angle, Cody's return, and everything that went down at WrestleMania 40 with Seth being Cody's right-hand man? How would Dean Ambrose be booked under a Paul Levesque WWE? And how would AEW look without one of their top names? And who do you think fills that spot? That's a lot of what ifs. I don't know who fills that spot. I don't know who that person is. I mean, Jericho was kind of that guy for a while. He was that WWE guy they brought in who had a name, who really helped get them established. So, I mean, Jericho, maybe they would have relied on him a little bit more heavily. What Dean Ambrose's career would have looked like in WWE under Triple H, honestly, I think he would have been firmly planted in the mid-card. Like mid-card, upper mid-card with the occasional main event program. Very much in a Kevin Owens type role. Kevin Owens is a main event guy, but he has not spent the majority of his time in the main event in WWE. He's been in and out of the main event. That's how it would be for Dean Ambrose. He was always the odd man out when it came to all three Shield members. Moxley had to leave. He left because he wasn't happy, and that was not going to change under Triple H. Because in leaving, he also got to embrace the style of wrestling that he loves working. And it's a style that he never would have been allowed to work in WWE.